Oh, the neighborhood watch. Yeah, I'll pull it up.
Okay, pull it up. Tell me when you got it. Okay, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, we were talking about geoengineering and these radical solutions to solve the problem which doesn't exist. You know, climate change has happened throughout the eons, whether it's heating or cooling, and humans have had very little to do with it in every case. But now, I wrote an article on Monday, which just I had to read it very carefully to make sure that what I was reading was actually true, and it was there in the article. But they're now proposing, and this is out of Stanford University, a guy called Professor Stephen Schneider, at a cost of $100 billion a year to the taxpayer. They're proposing to send out a fleet of spaceships and literally park them between the Earth and the Sun to form a giant artificial cloud to block out the Sun. And this is in the Guardian article that I referenced earlier, Geoengineering, the Radical Ideas to Combat Climate Change. And the quote out of it is, scientists have suggested launching a constellation of free-flying craft that would sit between the Sun and the Earth, forming a cylindrical cloud around half the Earth's diameter and 10 times longer. And this, they say, is to block out 2% of sunlight hitting the Earth.
But I thought they said the sun, Al Gore said, had nothing to do with heating.
Oh, yeah. They will say that the sun has little to do with climate change and then that it's CO2 emissions. But all these programs of geoengineering are based around blocking out the sun.
And it all goes back to them playing God. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I guess that giant blazing ball of light in the sky has got something to do with climate change.
Okay, let's play I agree. Let's play a few of these clips. We don't have time to play it all, but here's one clip about the tattletale squads. We now have these here in the U.S. as well. Here it is.
Are you naturally nosy? Do you consider yourself to be a snooper, someone who likes to know what's going on in their street? Then you're wanted, but not for a crime. To uncover those close by who are not as environmentally minded as authorities think they could be. Adverts looking for so-called environment volunteers have been springing up around the country. The resident recruitment drive by councils is for those willing to report anyone who drops litter, fails to recycle rubbish properly, or allows their dogs to foul the streets.
All right.
Critics say it's...
And then you also have adverts in every major paper in England for kids to spy on their parents, fill out dossiers on them. You wear red and black uniforms. You're called climate cops. They're going to set that up here as well. They're building the whole Homeland Security apparatus. It's then going to be shifted into every one of you will have a caseworker who visits you weekly. This has all been announced. This will happen. I mean, I'm sorry, you're not coming to my house, you dirty bastards. Stay out of my life. Every control freak, nobody who could ever do anything in their life could never make it. Controlling the arts and entertainment, just like East Germany. I mean, it is just going to be hellish. Now, here's another clip out of Utah telling you can't collect rainwater, and then making it sound reasonable at the end of the newscast. Here it is.
Who owns the rain? Turns out, not you. You're actually breaking the law if you try to capture rain falling onto your roof and pour it on your flower bed.
A prominent Utah car dealer found that out when he tried to do something good for the environment.
Okay, stop right there. It's up on Infowars.com and PresentPlanet.com if you want to see it. But the bottom line is it's the same sales tactic. We're doing this for your own good. We're doing this for the earth. He was doing it for the environment, but it wasn't good enough. And at the end, he submitted to them, and they just explained that the government owns you. You know, that's why T. Boone Pickens is grabbing all those area for wind power. It's about the water under it, and it's a big scam. But he tells you it's for the environment. He'll go for it. Paul Watson.
Well, yeah, now you've got a situation in Britain, which I talked about last time I was on about this, where a guy allegedly, I stress allegedly, because he claims he didn't, but maybe he did, maybe he's evil, allegedly dropped an apple core when he was walking down the street, and he was subsequently pursued by environmental snoops who then called the regular police. He was handcuffed, arrested, and kept in a cell for about 12 hours.
Yeah, this is total tyranny, and if you say the word homosexual, you're arrested in England, BBC reported. Again, hardcore super tyranny in your face. Go ahead, Paul.
And there was another case where a woman and a young child had bought a sausage roll from a food stand, and the mother was feeding it to her daughter, and a tiny piece of the pastry dropped on the floor, and immediately pigeons swooped down and ate it up. But this crime was spotted by an eagle-eyed environmental crimes unit official who came running across the street and demanded the authority to fine this woman for dropping a tiny piece of pastry on the street.
Now again, they're creating the Stasi force out of environmental wackos who don't care about cross-species, genetic engineering, GMO, real crises. It's about maximum enforcement on the general public. You think it's bad with cops everywhere writing you tickets now? 10 times what it was decades ago. It's going to get hundreds of times worse. Every control freak, nobody in your face. We're going to talk behind the scenes in a minute, Paul, for the Infowars.com audio streams. Before we end this segment, come back in the final segment with Aaron with some eugenics quotes that he didn't have in here earlier. You know what? I'll take rainwater out of the sky if I want. You know something? You better drill your wells now. Even in Texas, they're trying to ban having your own well. It'll be grandfathered in. They're coming. The scum. There's no jobs left in America. There's only cop and enforcer and bureaucratic jobs. They're going to go from 3 million cops to 10 million. They've announced it. They're going to run your life. It's going to get bad, folks. You think it's bad now? You ain't seen nothing. Paul, you got 3 minutes. Any other topics you want to cover?
I was going to add to that the fact that if you get a cadre of people who pick on innocent people for supposed crimes, then that only increases the real crime rate. There was a story today about a running street battle between Asian and black gangs in London, and this wasn't some, hellhole. It was a posh area of London, and they had a running street battle for 20 minutes. With no police showing up whatsoever. So you read stories about that, and then you read stories about mothers getting harassed and fined for dropping a piece of pastry on the floor by these environmental crime squads.
Well, police files have been released. One time when the Chicago police chief slipped up. When real stuff happens, the cops cower and protect themselves. But if it's beating up an old woman, they're going to be there on the spot because that's easy. See, the fat cattle, that's us, are to be bled and sucked off of, not the criminal element.
That's right, and it's only going to increase when they devote more police time to more inane and stupid things that only target innocent people, such as, in this country at the moment, knife crime. There was a media scaremongering campaign about the increase in knife crime and people being stabbed. So what did the government do? They banned knives, and now you get 3 years in jail simply for possessing a knife, if you're not in your own house. And what effect is that going to have? Well, it means that anybody who wants to defend themselves against knife crime is not going to be able to carry a knife because criminals don't obey laws.
And so your crime rate will totally explode, and when they catch a citizen with a knife to defend themselves, they'll throw the book at you. But in England, they've already been caught, and secret memos have come out on that, to leave illegal aliens alone, to let them break the law. When they stab somebody, they'll let them go in a few weeks. Because they're there to menace you into submission. Problem, reaction, solution.
That's right.
Paul, I want a big chemtrail report. I mean, we've got all this high-altitude aerosol spraying. All these universities admit they're doing it. They admit they're manipulating it. And it's exactly what all the chemtrail researchers like Carnicom and others said when they did tests. It's not like we just guessed this and then it came true. We documented this. I think it'd be a big story, an important story, with a headline like Chemtrail Mystery Solved. I think it'd be a supernova story, post a bunch of videos. I'd like to see that from you tomorrow, Paul.
Yeah, I actually did a similar one back in April.
No, I know. I mean, that's why I said do the story, because you just mentioned it. But let's give it one where we really explain. You kind of, just halfway covered it. I think another big report would be great. But, Paul, thanks for spending time with us.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
You bet.